This is Red Ice Radio. From the dream to reality. RedIceCreations.com.
Dear friends, new and regular listeners, it's great to have you with us. Thank you for spending some of your time with us today. My name is Henrik. Keep your browser tuned to RedIceCreations.com, our website. Bookmark it. Subscribe to our RSS feeds, our free newsletter, to follow us on a regular basis. If you, just as we, are interested in some of the most important and interesting subject matters, we're talking about everything from conspiracy to spirituality and so much more. We want to know. It's as simple as that. We have an interesting program for you today with Rosalind Peterson. She is the California president and co-founder of the Agriculture Defense Coalition, formed in 2006 to protect agricultural crop production from uncontrolled experimental weather modification programs, atmospheric heating and testing programs, and ocean and atmospheric geoengineering programs. In 1995, she became a certified USDA Farm Service Agency crop loss adjuster, working in more than 10 counties throughout California. Rosalind earned a BA degree from Sonoma State University in Environmental Studies and Planning, with emphasis on agriculture and crop production. Between 1989 and 93, Rosalind worked as an agricultural technologist for the Mendocino County Department of Agriculture. She has won several awards and recognition for her extensive efforts to protect drinking water supplies from toxic chemical contamination in Martinez, California. Today we are going to focus on weather modification, geoengineering programs, and the connection to crop loss. Please stay with us for an interesting program. Okay, it's excellent to have you with us here on Red Ice Radio. Rosalind, thank you for coming on. Thank you for taking the time here today to talk with us. How are you today, Rosalind?
Oh, I'm just fine, and it's an honor and a privilege to be on your show today.
Absolutely, you bet. It's going to be interesting hearing about yourself, about your work, and pertaining to your perspective over in California. This is obviously an issue that is worldwide. Many people who bother to look up at the sky are prone to realize that something is not the way it used to be, and we're going to try to look at this issue from many different angles and perspectives, of course. But at the beginning here, Rosalind, I want to get your take, I guess, as a background to how you started looking into this phenomena overall. Maybe you can just tell us how you got into it briefly, Rosalind.
Well, I started looking into the issue of persistent jet contrails starting in 2002. When a friend of mine brought to my attention some of these issues, and also it was a period of time when we really were blitzed here with trails that persisted. We were blitzed with unusual phenomenon in the sky, and it concerned me because I realized right away that it was abnormal, and that growing up here all of my life, when we looked up, we always saw these clear, beautiful, deep blue skies. The clouds would come, it would rain, and then it would clear up. And we never had the haze, and we never had these man-made clouds that were produced by the jets ever before in the quantities and configurations that were appearing in our skies. So my background, I worked for many years for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in California. Part of that time I spent as a crop loss adjuster, which meant that whenever there were crop losses in California, we would be sent to address those issues to determine the cause of the crop losses and also to assess the amount of the damage. And there were a group of around 30 of us here in California that provided the service. But this gave me and others an opportunity to travel the state and also to assess different types of crops. What concerned me when I first began to really take note of the jets and their impact was that they were leaving us in higher humidity and man-made cloud cover, which was restricting the amount of sunlight reaching the earth, and realizing that all agricultural crops require photosynthesis and direct sunlight to grow and produce crops, this became of great concern to me, along with the fact that NASA studies early on in my research noted that these persistent jet contrails would change the climate. They were exacerbating changes to and impacting natural resources. So I soon began to really think about their impact on agriculture crop production within the United States. And this led me into research since that time of lots and lots of government websites and documents on this topic.
Absolutely. And I think you're in one way different in that way that you've, bothered to contact, various congressmen, people from in the political government venue over in California. And obviously what you've detailed so far, and what's an important issue to mention, I think, is the maps that you obtained from after an inquiry, I guess, to Congressman Mike Thompson. Can you tell us a little bit about that, Rosalind?
Well, one of the things that elected officials would do when first contacted is that they would only talk about the issue as a chemtrail issue, stating that it was a conspiracy theory or an internet hoax, this type of thing. So I made sure that I didn't put myself in that category at all. And so I refused to use that terminology in talking with them and speaking with them. But one of the things that Congressman Mike Thompson from Northern California had said was that it was increasing jet traffic. So in order to disprove that theory, what I did is I asked him for the federal paperwork on maps, FAA maps, for example, that would show flight paths and how many jets, commercial jets, were flying over Mendocino County. And so there appeared maps from Congressman Thompson's office, along with a letter stating what these maps were. And these maps were color-coded to show commercial airline flights over the county in Northern California where I live, which is Mendocino. And what we discovered was that there were very few commercial flights that flew over our county, and that the flight paths were straight line across the county, and that it didn't have anything to do with increasing jet traffic across our county, because the flights that we were noting here that were leaving these persistent jet contrails were flying outside of the flight paths of the commercial airlines. And it was obvious because there's so few flights going over from major airports over us that we were able to then differentiate that these were military flights that were leaving most of the jets that impacted our skies.
And these were called intra flights, I believe, if that's correct. And what would you pin this down to being just military flights then and military missions? Is that correct?
Yes, the intra flights are military in nature because they have unlimited funding. They circle our county all the time. They don't fly into, when you track them back, they don't fly into any of the major airports. They fly from military bases. So we knew that most of the jets leaving the persisting contrails over our county, as one example, had to be military, because commercial airlines do not loop the loop over our county. Commercial airlines don't get out of their flight paths because they only have a certain amount of fuel. It's very expensive, and they're on time schedules. So that commercial airlines would not, on a consistent basis, have time to do ovals and circles and crosshatches and X's and all the different flight variations over us, because they could never run on time.
So in your view then, Rosalind, does that mean that all commercial airline flights are not part of an overall program in terms of geoengineering and weather manipulation?
Well, you have to understand that commercial airlines do impact our environment, and they do sometimes produce trails that persist, but mostly they persist along the flight paths. But once you get out of their normal flight paths, then other aircraft then are causing the problem. So it's hard for me to know what the commercial airlines are paid to do with regard to keeping our skies in man-made clouds and haze.
Yeah.
Because I don't have any documentation to prove that. However, the military aircraft that fly over us all the time are definitely engaged in different types of patterns and different kinds of man-made cloud releases, and different types of configurations and haze. And they're definitely having an impact on global temperatures worldwide, because part of their release in the combustion process is water vapor. Water vapor is a greenhouse gas, and Stanford studies and NASA studies are saying that over Alaska and over the Arctic, aviation has a tremendous impact on warming.
Yeah, I don't doubt that at all. And I've argued many times before, as we've talked specifically, about chemtrails, if you will, with other guests. I know you don't like to use that term, so we're going to try to avoid that here today. I think that's pretty good in one way as well, because there's a lot of it's important to detail the terms, obviously, and we can stick to geoengineering, if you like, or weather manipulation, but we'll get deeper into some of the different aspects of this. But if we look at persistent contrails and commercial airline traffic, there's lots of different aspects to why this might be increasing. We're talking about, obviously, an increase, I think, overall in airline flight traffic since probably the 90s. People are, I think, traveling more, maybe less so, these days, depending on their attitude to TSA over in the States and all that. But in any regard, it seems to be on the increase. And there seems to be many different aspects of why they would be, from the official point of view, turned into persistent contrails. It has probably to do with temperature, air humidity, maybe even pressure. Can you talk a little bit about that? Why does it seem to be in certain cases that they stay up there, in other cases they go away right away? What do we know about that so far, Rosalind?
In the late 1980s, the jet engine was changed, especially in the military portion. Ram jets were in, and they produced more water vapor, which is a greenhouse gas. And also the military changed from JP4 jet fuel into JP8, JP10, JP5, and there were lots of additives put into the jet fuel by the military. The ramjets also created more water vapor as a greenhouse gas. So the military applications and usage would produce more water vapor, which is considered a problem, an ever-increasing aviation problem. The JP4 continues to be used by commercial airlines for the most part, and they did convert over all the way to ramjets because there would be an expensive conversion over for some of the new, more sophisticated engines. In the meantime, the increasing water vapor, according to IPCC and Stanford University reports, is causing warming over the Arctic and also warming over Alaska and other areas, and that this is problematic. Plus, aviation's impacts in general are tremendous, and there are several reports talking about these impacts.